Imagine this. You've just invented something that's going to change the world. You've got the funding, the technology, the marketing, everything's perfect, the entire world is watching, and then it crashes. Spectacularly, embarrassingly, expensively. Now, what if I told you that some of the smartest people on the planet, backed by some of the richest companies in history, have fallen into this exact trap? We're talking about ideas that, on paper, were absolutely brilliant, revolutionary, even, but in reality, they became cautionary tales that cost billions of dollars. Today, we're diving into 3 genius ideas that failed so miserably, they've become legends in the world of innovation gone wrong. And trust me, number 3 is going to blow your mind. It involves one of the most iconic brands on earth and a failure so spectacular it nearly bankrupted the company. So, buckle up, because we're about to explore the fine line between genius and disaster. Let's get into it. Let's kick things off with a story that perfectly captures how incredible hype can crash and burn. It's December 2001. Tech journalists are buzzing, frantically trying to figure out a mysterious new invention codenamed Ginger or IT. The secrecy is intense. We're talking Steve Jobs himself saying it could be bigger than the PC. John Doerr, a legendary Silicon Valley venture capitalist, predicted it would hit $1 billion in sales faster than any company in history. Just let that sink in. Faster than Microsoft, Apple, or Google. So, what was this world-changing device? It was the SEGWAY. Yeah, that 2-wheeled scooter thing you've probably seen mall security guards riding. Now, before you laugh, let me explain why everyone thought this was the future. The SEGWAY personal transporter was genuinely innovative. It used gyroscopic sensors and brilliant software to keep you balanced automatically. You just leaned forward to go, leaned back to stop, and shifted your weight to turn. It felt like magic. The inventor, Dean Common, was a certified genius who had already created the first portable insulin pump and a wheelchair that could climb stairs. This guy was the real deal. The vision was incredible. Imagine cities without cars, people gliding effortlessly on segways, eliminating traffic jams, slashing pollution, and making urban travel fun. The team behind it projected they'd sell tens of thousands of units every single week. They had the tech, they had the funding, and they had the backing of some of the most powerful people on the planet. So what went wrong? Well, reality hit hard. First, the price. The SEGWAY launched at around $5,000. That's more than a decent used car, and way more than a nice motorcycle, for something that topped out at 12 miles per hour with a 15-mile range. Second, let's be honest, you looked kinda silly riding it. I'm not trying to be mean, but this was a huge issue they completely overlooked. In a car, you're enclosed. On a bike, you look athletic. On a skateboard, you can look cool. On a SEGWAY, you looked like you were from the future, but not the cool Blade Runner future. It just looked a bit awkward. Third, cities weren't built for them. Where were you even supposed to ride it? It was too fast for the sidewalk with pedestrians, but way too slow and vulnerable for the road with cars. Bike lanes were an option, but most cities barely had any back then. But here's the real kicker. The problem nobody saw coming. People didn't actually need it. See, walking works just fine. It's free, it's healthy, and it doesn't need to be charged. For longer trips we already had bikes, and for even longer distances, there were cars and public transit. The SEGWAY was a solution looking for a problem that, for most of us, didn't exist. The company expected to sell 10,000 units in the first year. They sold about 6,000 over the next decade. They sold less than 30,000 in total. That's less than what they thought they'd sell in a single month. The SEGWAY became a running joke. President George Bush famously fell off one. Usain Bolt, the fastest man alive, got taken out by one during a victory lap. It became the vehicle of choice for quirky tourist groups and, yes, mall cops. In 2015, the company was sold for a tiny fraction of its peak valuation. The machine that was supposed to make cars obsolete became a meme. But here's what makes this story so fascinating. The technology was brilliant, the execution was perfect, the invention worked exactly as advertised, and it still failed. Because being a genius isn't just about creating something amazing, it's about creating something people actually want. And the SEGWAY, it turns out, nobody really wanted it. Alright, let's jump forward to 2012. Google, yes, that Google, the company that basically owns the internet, announces something that sounds like pure science fiction. They're creating augmented reality glasses that you can wear all day, every day. These glasses will display information right in front of your eyes, take photos with a voice command, give you directions, translate languages in real time, basically turn you into a cyborg. Now, this wasn't some scrappy startup with a crazy idea. This was Google, a company with unlimited resources, the best engineers on earth, and a track record of changing the world. The hype was unreal. Tech journalists called it revolutionary. Early adopters paid $1,500 just for the privilege of testing it before the public launch. Celebrities wore them on red carpets. Fashion designers put them on runways. This was going to be the next smartphone, the next big thing that everyone would have. Sergey Brin, Google's co-founder, wore them everywhere, in interviews, at conferences, even at formal events. He was essentially saying, "This is the future, and I'm living in it right now." and the technology was genuinely impressive. You could record video from your exact point of view, navigate without ever looking at your phone, and get instant information about anything you were looking at. It was like having a computer integrated right into your vision. So, obviously, this changed everything and we're all wearing smart glasses today, right? Yeah, no. Google Glass became one of the most spectacular failures in tech history, and the reasons why are absolutely fascinating. First issue, the creep factor. Imagine you're talking to someone and they're wearing Google Glass. Are they recording you? Are they looking up information about you while you talk? Are they even paying attention? Or are they just reading their emails? You had no way to know. That little camera and screen made everyone deeply uncomfortable. Bars started banning them. Movie theaters banned them. Even some restaurants had signs saying no glass allowed. People who wore them in public got confronted, yelled at, and in some cases, even physically attacked. They even got a nickname, glassholes. That's what people called Google Glass users. When your product's users have a widely recognized derogatory nickname, that's not a good sign. Second issue, they just looked weird. Google tried to make them fashionable, but let's be honest, you looked like you were wearing a computer on your face because you were. And while that might work in a sci-fi movie, in real life, people found it off-putting and kind of pretentious. Third issue, the battery life. The glasses lasted about 4 to 5 hours with moderate use. That means you'd need to charge them multiple times throughout the day, constantly worrying about your glasses dying. Not exactly the seamless future experience they promised. Fourth issue, the technology wasn't quite there yet. The display was small and hard to see in bright sunlight. The voice commands didn't always work. The camera quality was mediocre. It was impressive for 2013, sure, but it wasn't good enough to justify the price, the social stigma, and all the inconvenience. But here's the deepest problem, and this is crucial. Society just wasn't ready. We hadn't established any social norms around this kind of technology. When smartphones came out, there was an adjustment period, but phones were familiar. Cameras existed. We understood them. With Google Glass, we were entering completely uncharted territory. Questions nobody had answers to. Is it okay to wear them during a private conversation? What about in a locker room? In a bathroom? At a funeral? Nobody knew. There were no social rules. And nobody wanted to be the guinea pig while society figured it all out. In 2015, Google quietly discontinued the consumer version of Google Glass. The project that was supposed to define the next era of computing just disappeared. They pivoted to enterprise use, selling versions for factories and warehouses where privacy concerns weren't an issue. The failure cost Google hundreds of millions of dollars, but more importantly, it cost them something priceless: momentum. They were first to market with consumer AR glasses, and they completely fumbled it. Now, companies like Apple and Meta are trying to crack the same problem, but they're being much more careful because they all watched Google fail. Here's the thing though, Google Glass wasn't a bad idea. It was probably a great idea. It just came too soon. The technology wasn't mature enough, and society wasn't ready to accept cameras on people's faces 24/7. Sometimes genius fails simply because it's ahead of its time. But okay, you've heard about the SEGWAY, a revolutionary vehicle that nobody wanted. You've heard about Google Glass, the future that arrived too early. Now let me tell you about number 3 and this one. This is the big one, because it didn't just fail, it almost destroyed one of the most valuable brands in human history. Picture this, it's 1985. Coca-Cola isn't just a soda, it's an American institution. It's served at the White House and sold in over 155 countries. People don't just like Coke, they have an almost religious devotion to it. But there's a problem, a big one. Pepsi is winning. Not in total sales, but in blind taste tests. The Pepsi challenge was working and Coke's market share was shrinking. So Coca-Cola's executives did what any data-driven company would do. They spent 4 years and $4 million developing a new formula. They ran the biggest taste test in history with 200,000 people. The results were crystal clear. People loved the new formula. It beat Pepsi. It even beat the original Coke by a huge margin. It was sweeter, smoother, objectively better. On April 23, 1985, at a massive press conference, Coca-Cola announced they were replacing their 99-year-old formula with something new and improved. They called it New Coke. This was supposed to be their triumphant return to dominance. They had the science. They had the confidence. This was genius. This was the future. And it was an absolute unmitigated disaster. Within hours, the phone lines at Coke headquarters were flooded. Not with congratulations, with pure fury. People felt betrayed. Some were literally in tears. One caller said it felt like a childhood friend had died. Others compared it to trampling on the American flag. These weren't just casual soda drinkers. Their identity was tied to Coca-Cola and they felt like it had been stolen. Protest groups formed. Man in Seattle started the Old Cola Drinkers of America and recruited over 100,000 members. People started hoarding old Coke, and a black market emerged where a case of the original stuff sold for ridiculous prices. Coca-Cola's hotline received over 40,000 angry calls a day. People said New Coke tasted like 2-day-old Pepsi or even furniture polish. And here's the truly mind-bending part. Many of these complainers had actually preferred New Coke in the blind taste tests. When they didn't know what they were drinking, they liked it better. But once they knew it was replacing their beloved original, they hated it. Coca-Cola had spent millions proving their new drink tasted better. But they forgot something crucial. People don't just drink Coke for the taste. They drink it for what it represents. Nostalgia, tradition, comfort. It's a part of their personal history. Less than 3 months after launch, Coca-Cola gave up. At another press conference, they announced they were bringing back the original formula, now called Coca-Cola Classic, and the country celebrated literally. The news made front pages. ABC News anchor Peter Jennings interrupted regular programming to announce the original Coke's return. What was meant to be a brilliant strategic move became one of the biggest marketing blunders in history. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Some people think it wasn't a blunder at all. There's a persistent conspiracy theory that Coca-Cola did it on purpose, a massive publicity stunt to remind people just how much they loved the original. Think about it. Before New Coke, Coke was losing ground. After the disaster and the return of Coke Classic, sales skyrocketed. Brand loyalty was stronger than ever. The company got billions of dollars worth of free publicity. As Coca-Cola's president said, "We're not that dumb, and we're not that smart." So, was it a mistake? Or was it the most brilliant marketing move ever, disguised as a failure? We'll probably never know for sure. But we do know that Coca-Cola learned that an emotional connection matters more than flavor profiles. They learned that sometimes people don't want better, they want familiar. The New Coke failure cost them millions, but it taught the entire business world a lesson worth far more. Innovation isn't always about creating something new. Sometimes it's about protecting something timeless. So there you have it, 3 genius ideas that failed spectacularly. The SEGWAY, revolutionary tech that nobody actually needed. Google Glass, the future that arrived way before society was ready for it. And New Coke, the scientifically superior soda that people hated because it messed with their emotions. Each one of these had everything going for it. Smart people, tons of money, solid technology, and data backing up their every decision. And yet they all crashed and burned. So what's the big lesson here? I think it's this. Genius just isn't enough. You can be smart, well-funded, and technically brilliant, and still fail completely if you don't understand people. Human beings are irrational, we're emotional. We're attached to things for reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with logic or data. The SEGWAY failed because it solved a problem nobody had. Google Glass failed because it violated social norms that nobody had even articulated yet. And New Coke failed because it completely underestimated the power of nostalgia and identity. These companies learned the hard way that success isn't just about creating the best product. It's about creating the right product, at the right time, for the right reasons. It's about understanding that people aren't just consumers analyzing features and benefits. We're complicated, messy, emotional creatures who make decisions based on feelings just as much as facts. And honestly, I find that kind of beautiful. It means we're not just predictable machines. It means there's still a little mystery left in the world. It means that no matter how much data you collect or how brilliant you are, people can always surprise you. So the next time you hear about some revolutionary new product that's going to change everything, maybe be a little skeptical, because history shows us that genius ideas fail all the time. And sometimes, the biggest failures can teach us far more than the greatest successes. What do you think? Have you ever used any of these products? Do you think New Coke was secretly a brilliant marketing move? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into spectacular failures, hit that subscribe button, because we've got plenty more stories where these came from. Trust me, humanity's capacity for ambitious failure is truly limitless. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.